Hello, hello.
Hello. Welcome to Tengu's Vault, a Kenshi podcast. Actually, this is podcast number 6, but
Yeah,
it is about the Second Empire again, like we had in the last podcast.
yeah.
But before we go there, I want to introduce you to the great hero in his head. I mean, you already know him, but still, I'm still introducing him because I can. And I am the humble but very bold Pedostrophia.
Very bold.
How are you
Very
guys
bold.
doing?
Oh man, we're back, dude. We're on episode 6 already. My God, I know that like we only do the
Crazy,
pod, every
absolutely.
other week. So like it seems like I feel like to people watching that like oh we've only had 6 episodes, 6 episodes of it, but like it's 6 episodes. I feel like it's crazy that we're moving through this far. Maybe eventually we'll be able to move it to weekly, but right now the bi-weekly works pretty well. But still, episode 6 is crazy.
Yeah.
Episode 6 is
Um, I,
crazy.
I think it's the current speed with two uh, every 2 weeks one podcast is fine. If we have more content, more Kenji news, more Kenji stuff, I would totally drop it to once per week.
Oh
But
yeah,
currently, I
yeah,
think the current progression is fine. So we
yeah.
still have stuff to talk about and stuff like that.
I think the current progression will buy us a combination of being able to talk about stuff, but also like as we get closer to Kenshi 2, excuse me, as we get closer to Kenshi 2, as things start to reveal themselves and everything, like we don't in the interim time between now and then we don't run out of stuff to talk about. Gives us the ability to filter topics. Otherwise, like within a year or two, we'd a year and a half, I feel like we'd start to run out of topics. At least now we bought ourselves some room.
I just wanna say here about running out of topics. I don't think so because we're just gonna make our own topics. We're
Yeah,
just
that's
gonna
true. At a certain
theorize and
point, it's just going to be theorizing. It's
I
gonna be
mean,
the Age of
I'm pretty
Chaos
sure.
episode every day.
I'm pretty sure at the end of our theorizing, Emperor Tengu is Okran, and I don't know, like King Gurgler is Narco or something like that.
Yeah.
We gotta get there. It's just gonna take some time.
Oh man. Actually, fun fact. King Gurgler is actually Mehrunes Dagon, and the entirety of Kenshi is actually an Elder Scrolls. In the Elder Scrolls universe, and it's actually Lig from the previous Kalpa. So I hate to tell you guys, we're actually at the end of the previous Kalpa. I don't. Fine.
Hell, fucking yeah, dude.
No, it's good. So yeah, we're on part 2 of the Second Empire episode. We're on part 2 of the Second Empire episode. We left off last. We had just talked about the introduction of the Shek as the enforcers. Hello, Artie. Hello. Yeah, we just talked about the introduction of the Shek as the enforcers, and what that looks like and how that could have happened, what their purpose was, and all of that stuff. So, just to kind of recap what we've talked about with the Second Empire so far, we talked about the bridge from the Age of Chaos into the Second Empire, all of the recent lore revelations that maybe give some additional context to that. Catlon being a war hero and all of that stuff. The introduction of the cannibals. We talked about the cannibals. We talked about the introduction of the Shek and a little bit about what that looked like. And now we were headed into the discussion about towards the end of the Second Empire. We're talking about the second half, part 2, second half. The Hivers, the famine, some of the problems the Empire was facing, Catlon's ultimate betrayal, and then what happened at the end, how the Empire fell apart, which is what we're talking about. So, I guess we'll kind of start out with the next major event that we know of, being that of the pirates and the issues with banditry and the issues with secession, the Holy Nation leaving. I think we talked about the Holy Nation's exodus a little bit last time with the Holy Nation leaving within the Shek side of things. We talked about the Holy Nation exodus with the first Phoenix potentially being a skeleton and all that stuff. So all of this is going
Yeah.
on, and now Catlon is starting to lose his mind, starting to lose his grip on his empire, and people aren't listening. Secessions are happening, and he's starting to really fall under the pressure. He's really starting to crack under the pressure. So, what do you think about the end of the Second Empire? What do you think like was the mindset? What do you think was going on? What does the landscape look like for you? Because we know, like, obviously what the the end result was, in terms of the empire falling
Mhm.
apart. But like, what do you think it was to stand in the empire? How do you think it felt like as a citizen? What do you think was happening around you?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question because the fall of the Second Empire is something that has always been very interesting to me. Because when you take a look at the Ashlands and you see what's currently happening there, all the ash falling down, everything is destroyed. And taking a look at the Ashlands, they were huge. Like the Ashlands, they were, we talked about this before, but they were like imposing. You get this
Yeah,
unnerving feeling when you go there. You have this like, this feeling of like, you're uncomfortable,
like you're being
and then
watched.
when you
Yeah.
yeah, like
same
you're
same
being
time like when
watched,
you
and
walk
then
through the
you
Cannibal Plains, they make the dialogue about like how like oh, I think I see something moving over the ridge. It's like that entire time. It's like, dude,
yeah,
what the hell is going on? Who's there?
the paranoia is kicking in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying, the Ashlands, like if you take a look at the ground and everything, then everything looks mechanical. So basically, the whole Ashlands were like a huge mega city. And this brings me to the point, like, how did it get destroyed? Like, what caused the destruction of the Ashlands, of the capital of the Second Empire?
Mhm.
Um, was it a bomb? Like, what happened there? Like, but how were the humans able to do that? Or what was it even the humans? Maybe it was like skeletons themselves. Someone betrayed Catlon. We don't know. We don't know. It's just for me. I think the fall of the Second Empire is something I really hope we get some information in Kenshi too, because
Yeah.
I'm really that's I think from all the theories I have or from all the things I want to know, the fall of the Second Empire is something I really really want to know. Like what happened there, and maybe get some hints. Maybe get some hints towards that,
Mhm.
like what happened. I'm just very curious about that. Um, what are your 5 cents on the topic? What do you think? What do you think? How did the Second Empire fall in the end? Like, what caused the destruction of the Ashlands?
Yeah, so there's dialogue in Kenshi and in books and stuff. When you're talking with the Armor King, for example, he talks about how the end of the Second Empire was nothing like the fall of the First. The fall of the First was incredibly violent, and this kind of goes with my previous statement that I made about how in Kenshi the Second Empire was largely an inverse of the first, right? Like there was a lot of changes. Geez, man, a lot of Discord's popping off right now. um the first empire was I mean the second empire was very much an inverse of the first. And because of that, the way that they fell is a direct reflection of that. The second empire, unlike the first that fell incredibly quickly, there was like we talked about in the first empire podcast episode that like it happened over the course of anywhere between hours, days, maybe like a few weeks, but like it was quick, it was fast, it was rapid fire. The first empire didn't even have a chance to actively respond and retaliate against the skeleton rebellion. It was systematically destroyed. It was crazy, right? um and as a byproduct of that, um like there was no response. Like it was very quick. So the second empire
Mhm.
was inverted. Like the Armor King mentions that it was nothing like the first. It was um a slow gradual rotting from the inside, very very
Mhm.
slow. And I have it pulled up right here where they talk about it. I just want to read the exact line because it's relevant to how it pulled. Um, Here it is. Okay, how did the Second Empire end? The Armor King responds, "It just sort of rotted and fell apart. A mental disease, very strange. Not at all like the First Empire." And we know the First Empire fell quickly, so it rotted out from the inside.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
based on what we understand of how the infrastructure and stuff was built for what would come after, being that of the United Cities, stuff like that, we can kind of guess that the fall of the empire did not happen at once. It happened gradually over years, decades, even. Cities started
Mhm.
to check out. They started to secede from the empire. They started to no longer listen to Catlon. They declared independence. And Catlon's still, sitting there trying to rule over his empire, trying to hang on to the remains of power that he has. But The truth is that they slowly just stopped listening. Cities declared independence. The city still stood. It wasn't a mass rebellion. It wasn't a revolt. There wasn't, um, any uh, grand revolutions against Catlon. It's just people just gave up, a collective giving up. Um, it just rotted and fell apart from the inside. And I think that,
Mhm.
after the events of the Holy Nation Exodus, I think that was like one of the big I think that was one of the checkpoints where like things started to go downhill. Like I think the cannibal campaigns were bad, but I think that when the Holy Nation started to like when the Holy Nation rebelled, when they left, or the cult that would become the Holy Nation when they left, that was like the turning point where things went started to really fall apart for the Empire. And
Mhm.
Catlon started to become more and more paranoid around this time. So he was implementing more and more rules and laws to kind of hang on to the grips of power that he had, to hang on to the cities that he had. He's like, well, these people are rebelling against me. They're leaving. So I'm going to oppress them. I got to lock criminals up, accuse people of being pirates. They're dissenters. They're trying to usurp me. They're trying to take my
Oh,
throne. Yeah, I know the audacity of
those
them.
fools.
I know the audacity. They're trying to usurp me. They're trying to take over my empire. Don't they understand that I'm the hero? I'm trying to help them. I have to save them from themselves now. I saved them from my kind. I saved them from extinction. I saved them from in the Civil War, and now I have to save them from themselves. Because they're destructive. They're violently destructive. They're going to destroy everything they touch, and they don't even realize they're doing it. After everything we've built, look what they're doing. And so he starts oppressing them even more. He had that mass exodus from the Holy Nation, and now he's cracking down on people. He's throwing them in internment camps. He's throwing making child labor camps. He's you know he's
I'm sorry. I know.
I saw the chuckle. What happened? What is it? What is
I
it?
know when you were saying he's throwing them in childs, and I was like, in my head, like my head was playing cinema over there.
Oh,
It's
he's
fine. It's
picking
okay.
up grown men and
It's
just
just
launching them like torpedoes
yeah.
into children.
I I have this humor of a 5-year-old. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. But I just in my head it was just like, oh, boop boop boop. Um, Sorry.
Oh man.
So where were you? So child prisons and
Yeah.
child experiments and
Yeah,
so
so
yeah.
he's throwing them in prisons, and he's, oppressing them. He's accusing people of being pirates. He's cracking down with the police force. I mean, he's doing everything he can to hang on to his nation, but all he's really doing is causing further dissent. He's causing further cracks to form in his empire. The people trust him less, and because they trust him less, more cities end up seceding. Because more cities secede, he tightens the grip, and it's just a downward spiral. And then all of it really culminated in two events that we know of: the famine,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
the famine that was caused by the explosion in the grid,
Mhm.
as well as the cannibal plains probably being tainted. They realized like, oh, we can't grow food up there. They made everyone's crazy. Plus, there's cannibals up there now, so that's not really an option. But the explosion in the grid that caused the famine, and the final nail in the coffin was Catlon's enthralling of his own subject.
I think you talked about this before, but what do you think caused the explosion in the grid?
So inside the grid, there are several um like ancient citadels, ancient lab structures, right? And those
Mhm.
structures are exclusively First Empire built, not First Empire used, not like First Empire used exclusively, but they were built by the First Empire. The Second Empire
Yep.
built none of those ancient citadels, none of those ancient labs, those large buildings that are used for like the control towers, like the Tower of Abuse, or like Tengu's like palace, or the Traders Guild palace. Like those are buildings that were built by the First Empire and then repurposed and
Mhm.
reconfigured during the Second Empire, and
Mhm.
and into modern Kenshi as well. So inside the
Yep.
crater, there are of those several of those labs, and but in the epicenter there's not, but there are several of those labs. And so I think that that's important for what could have potentially caused the explosion. Now we know, and I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit. We know that the grid was a source of agriculture for the Second Empire because of the description on Catlon's original CPU saying that there was an explosion, famine that was caused by an explosion in the grid. Well, that means that the explosion in the grid must have caused some kind of destabilization of the agricultural, like the area they were having, like growing their food in, their agriculture was based in.
Mhm.
We know that the water levels in Kenshi were higher at that time. And if you look at the map of Kenshi, there is right next to the grid is the swamp. And so it's at an elevation that's low enough that the water would have been in between those grid, like in between these plots of land that are make up the grid. Like right now,
Mhm.
it's drained, so it just looks like large spires um,
Mhm.
that form like a grid-like pattern that you can walk through on the base. But when it's filled with water, it would have been platforms of square land that had an irrigation system traveling through them that would have made the plots of land more fertile, right?
True,
And
true. Makes sense.
in real life, there are examples of that exact type of farming being used in Aztec floating farms. Um, I've pulled up I've made a couple of shorts and videos talking about it. I've pulled it up a few times, but there's these things called Aztec floating farms where they would basically make these platforms and arrange them in a grid-like pattern, so that way the water would flow throughout them. They could take boats and stuff to get between them, and the water would naturally irrigate the soil and make the soil ideal for growing things. And
Yep.
so we can assume that if an explosion caused a famine in the grid, that the explosion wiped out the Aztec floating farms, and the crater that is right next to the grid breaks into the floating farms. Right? It breaks into those
Yeah.
floating farms. It breaks into the grid. You
Mhm.
can see right where the grid like is disrupted by the crater. So now we have to ask ourselves the question: what was the explosion? Right? Well, there's very few
Yeah.
things that could cause an explosion of that magnitude to occur. And the
Mhm.
first thing that pops
Yeah.
into my mind is a nuclear explosion, right? An atomic
Yeah.
explosion of some. So now
Mhm.
we have to look
Mhm.
for evidence of, well, we can't just say it's a nuke, right? That's not good research. That's not good study or anything like that. We have to look for evidence of that. Well, throughout the crater where this explosion would
Mhm.
have taken place, the epicenter, and throughout the grid, there is
Yeah.
evidence of extreme heat, and not just extreme heat, radioactive heat, in the form of either trinitite or atomic glass. Um,
Okay.
when you look at the stone, it looks very, very reminiscent to trinitite or atomic glass, which is this green, glassy, hued stone. And atomic
Mhm.
glass, I feel like more likely because trinitite is formed from a nuclear explosion on desert sand, which theoretically is still possible with the grid, even if it was flooded, because the water could have been vaporized and then the sand on the bottom could have been turned into trinitite. However, atomic
Mhm.
glass can be formed underwater too. Um,
Oh.
Atomic glass can be formed underwater, and trinitite is usually a lighter hued green. Atomic glass can be that dark, glassy picture. Plato, if you actually want to pull up just so you can see what I'm talking about, a picture of atomic glass, it has that dark, glassy, greenish hue that it perfectly matches all of the giant spires of stone that are present in the grid and present in the crater. And so what I think
It's
happened was
true.
inside the crater, one of the labs had some kind of nuclear device or atomic reactor or something of that nature. And whether the Second Empire was utilizing it or whether they accidentally messed with it,
Oh.
because remember, we also know by one of the descriptions of the Second Empire that their entire focus was on reclamation of old technology and uncovering the past, archaeology and the reclamation of old technology. They were all about reconfiguring, right? And so we can take that and we can assume that they were
Okay.
digging into these old ruins trying to recover tech, touched something they
And then
shouldn't
they
have,
caused the
and
explosion.
caused an explosion that not only caused the destruction of much of the grid, because presumably the grid was into the crater like quite a bit, like it broke into the crater quite a bit. But in addition to that,
Mhm.
it also irradiated a lot of the area. So now even the spots that are left that could still be mined are now irradiated.
Oh shit! So they basically blew up the whole farming operation
The
over
the
there.
entire center of agriculture for the Second Empire was eviscerated in some kind of atomic explosion.
Just one thing, Hero.
Shoot.
Uh, can you activate your like the cam thing on Discord? I mean, that's something between us, but when you restarted the PC, because I
Oh,
can only
yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
your picture.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
I mean I'm currently looking on the YouTube screen, but you're a little bit delayed, and it feels like I'm talking to
Oh.
a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
earlier
Hold
version of
on.
yourself,
Hold on. Let
if
me
that's possible.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. Let me actually here's what I'll do. I'm gonna share screen on share OBS with you, and then
Oh
I'll
yeah,
pull it up
that's
and
how
that
you. Yeah,
that should
exactly.
work.
That's what
How's that? That work better?
that's what I meant. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's better now because it feels like I'm talking to Hero
Yeah,
right
there's a
now.
delay. No, you're good. You're
That's
good.
good. Yeah, yeah.
I usually do
Thank you,
that. I
man.
forgot to do it this time because I reset
Yeah,
before
yeah,
we
that's
started.
yeah. You restarted your PC and everything, and then we had to drop it because we're a little bit late. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I just wanted to let you finish your story because I didn't want to barge into that. But yeah, that's a pretty reasonable and pretty cool story. It would make sense because at this point, the Second Empire didn't really have enemies. Like they didn't really have anyone who would potentially try to hurt them, and that the explosion of the grid is an accident makes most sense. From all the things, it makes the most sense, because why would someone blow it up? For what reason?
Yeah, yeah.
The
I think it
humans
was an
wouldn't do
accident.
it because they were helping the humans, and yeah, everything was Gucci at this point.
The other thing too is the head of agriculture's CPU says that there was no way he could have foreseen the famine, and if it was a coordinated assault, you would think that they would have had some kind of like maybe they didn't think that the rebels were going to take it that far, but like it wouldn't be that they had no way of knowing. It was that they didn't foresee the rebels taking it that far. But if it was an accident as a byproduct of them tampering with technology that they were maybe excavating or that they were digging into,
Yep.
if it was truly an accident, there's no way that the head of agriculture could have seen the famine coming. There's nothing he could have done to stop it.
Have you, by the way, have you checked out the grid by yourself? Have you seen anything there that could
Um,
potentially point towards that?
in the grid, so the entirety of the grid, like the base of the grid where we can travel in Kenshi 1 is filled with that atomic glass and stuff. But there's also some First Empire
Mhm.
structures at the bottom of the grid. Those old workshops and stuff. And we know that the water level, I think I've proved this ad nauseum at this point. The water levels
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
First Empire were
yeah.
similar to what they are now. They rose during the Second, and that's a byproduct of the Ice Age, right? Because when there's an ice age, I'm going to backtrack a tiny bit. I'm so sorry. When there's an ice
That's
age,
fine.
um, there is the illusion that water levels are rising and falling, when in actuality, it is the byproduct of there being less weight on land, causing the landmass to sink. So during an ice age, all of the ice forms, permafrost forms, all that stuff, the weight actually lowers the ground level below sea level, and then after the ice melts, slowly over time, the land will rise back up. And it gives the illusion of rising and falling water levels, rising and falling sea levels. But I think what actually is happening is the water levels are static. They have not changed. Kenshi itself has went down after the fall of the First Empire due to the nuclear winter, the Ice Age, and then rose back up after that Ice Age ended over time. So I think that that's why that is. So during the First Empire, the area that is the grid was clearly previously excavated because there's First Empire
Mhm,
structures in the bottom of the grid, and they were using
mhm.
it for something. We don't know what that is. Now, the guess that I've seen a lot of people make that I'm liable to believe though, given that there was several labs present in the area that is the crater, and that grid-like pattern would also make a great structure for setting up a naturally terraformed power supply. I think that during the First Empire, one of the several places that the First Empire was getting their power, because they had a very diversified power network, right? They were mining oil from the
Mhm,
Deadlands, they were using geothermal
mhm,
energy from the volcanoes in Sonoris Dark, and I think that they were
mhm.
using nuclear energy and created a natural power grid in the area that is now the crater and the grid. I think that it was an area of manufacturing that they were using as a power source because there's several workshops down there. There's no
Oh,
mines, but there's workshops. And I think they were
they
using
they
the area as a
workshops.
power grid.
Know.
I think they were using it as a
I
power
want.
grid.
I really wonder if I take a closer look into the grid and like if I see any remnants where the explosion might have happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the crater on the map, you can see right in the epicenter where like the explosion initially occurred. Like it's right in the epicenter of it. Um, and that whole, I mean, if you look right, you can actually see the exact spot where the initial blast happened and then where the shockwave happened afterwards. But it must have been massive, absolutely massive. The other thing too is I wonder how much, like, what the landscape. This is something that I've wondered what the landscape of the crater looked like prior to the
Oh,
explosion because, um, the like it must have been a mountain. I feel like it must have been an underground facility, like a mountain of some kind that was
sorry.
eviscerated.
I have to start Kenji now. I have to check that.
He's got to check. Um,
I have to do it. I'm sorry.
I feel like it must have been like a mountain that was eviscerated because when you look at the grid, like there's no way that like the explosion, not only did it cause that explosion, but it like jutted the ground upward and created the crater in that way where there's also a massive downslope on the outsides. Like the way the crater looks, it doesn't strike me as the kind of crater um like that was created as the byproduct of an explosion. Oh, hold on, we're having some frame issues, I think. Okay, all
It's not
right.
because of my Kenji start, is it?
I don't think so. No.
I don't know.
No.
So, okay, wait. Give me a
So
second.
yeah, you know, as the
Huh.
byproduct of this explosion, it doesn't look like it was it doesn't look like a normal like kind of explosion where it would create like a typical crater. It looks almost like there was a mountain there that was blasted apart.
Oh, I'm stupid.
Why?
I'm because I just realized the grid is just a small part, and the crater is where the explosion happened, and everything was looked like the grid
Outward.
there.
Yeah.
I just, I
Yeah.
just, I just, I'm retarded. I'm sorry. Uh, oh, I was hoping I'm not offending anyone with my words here.
um
I'm just stupid. That's it, guys. Don't worry about it. my
um
my brain sometimes really works in weird ways. But
No, so
yeah,
I wonder if
okay.
maybe like these facilities and stuff were under a mountain and like they were doing literal excavations and the explosion blasted the mountain apart.
This is absolutely huge. Like this crater is
Yeah. Yeah,
insane.
it's a big crater. It's really big. It's really big.
Maybe
So
this is where they stored a bomb from the first war.
maybe I mean it could have been an undetonated explosive. It could have been something along those lines from the First Empire during the fall of the First Empire. It could have been something that was undetonated.
Maybe this were like the storage for for like multiple bombs
Yeah, because
because
there's
it's
multiple labs
absolutely
and ruins and stuff up
huge.
there. Like this was clearly an area where they were doing a lot of intense research. There's multiple ruins of multiple labs up there. They were doing something crazy up there. There was some stuff
This is
happening.
absolutely
I don't
bonkers.
know anywhere else in Kenshi where there's like a collection of that many ancient citadels in one place. There's a couple places where there's one or two in close proximity, but the crater, there's a bunch of them in really close proximity to each other. Whatever they were doing there was crazy. There was a crazy stuff happening there.
This is absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, though the explosion from the explosion in the grid, in the crater destroys the grid, destroys it, and a famine ensues. And the famine was one of the final nails in the coffin that I think caused people to lose full hope in Catlon because previously, what did Catlon offer the people of his empire? He offered them safety, he offered them food, he offered them economic security. He offered them
Mhm.
protection from persecution, and now he doesn't offer them protection from persecution. He's persecuting them. He doesn't offer them economic
Yeah.
safety because, I mean, like the economy's falling apart. He doesn't offer them food because there's a famine going on. He can't. He has really nothing to offer them anymore. He's got nothing to offer them anymore.
Exactly.
And so I think that was the final nail in the coffin that caused people to really start seceding from the empire. People just gave up. And I think this is just after this is when we're going to see like Kenshi. I'll get to the Kenshi 2 portion of the discussion because that is going to fall in, given that this is around the time frame that Kenshi 2 is going to happen. But the explosion happens, people lose faith, and cities start to secede. They start to give up. They start to no longer be interested in subscribing to, they're not buying what Catlon's selling anymore, and cities just secede. We know that it wasn't a big rebellion. We know that it wasn't, they weren't killing skeletons en masse. There wasn't like a giant upheaval or revolt or anything like that, because there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that. A lot of the infrastructure that was left from the Second Empire was reused and turned into what would eventually become independent city-states that would later down the line confederize into the United Cities and all that. So the cities were operating independently prior to the formation of the United Cities, which means the cities seceded from the empire and then operated independently as independent city-states for a period of time. So everyone just stops listening. And as a last-ditch effort, Catlon, he does two things, but I'm only going to talk about one for right now because we'll dive into the Hivers in a minute. Catlon sees that his oppression of the humans is going bad.
Yeah.
He's losing not just humans, he's losing enforcers, he's losing humans, he's losing other skeletons that are helping break the humans out from their, from the internment camps, from the prison camps, from the oppression of Catlon and his police force and his generals and all that stuff. The Phoenix, in my opinion, being a big one, maybe potentially Tin Fist, the original Phoenix, being a big one. His best friend, as far as we can tell, based on the in-game writings and literature provided to us, if not best friend, very close ally, very close confidant and friend, turning coat. I think that was the last straw. I think if Tin Fist was the first Phoenix, and the first Phoenix was a skeleton, Tin Fist betraying Catlon, I say that in quotes, betraying Catlon to free humans is the inspiration for that line when Catlon says, "I had to thrall them all, traitors, treason, siding with the humans." I think he's saying my comrade, my best friend, my brother in arms, the one who fought against tyranny alongside me, the guy who I made a great team with, Tin Fist, chose the humans over me. He freed the humans that I had locked up, that I was oppressing. Yeah, granted, he didn't see it as oppressing them, but he freed the humans. He chose humans over Catlon. I think that was the last straw that made him be like, I need to enthrall the skeletons, because they're going to leave. If Tin Fist left me, so will they.
So will they, yeah.
So will they.
And I guess everyone who was talking, maybe just was talking slightly against him.
Yeah.
Was enthralled.
Yeah.
Because he just had enough. It was like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
So he just started enthralling them. He just started enthralling them. He made them all his servants. They can't leave if they're enthralled. And when he did that, that was done. Over. And a lot of the skeletons that were left that had once revered Catlon as a hero decided to exile themselves to the Black Desert City.
Oh.
Now, the water levels in Kenshi were higher during the Second Empire. So the Black Desert is largely underwater. The Deadlands is largely underwater. And we know that the water in the Deadlands is acidic. So I find it very interesting that the Black Desert City is not on lowlands in the Deadlands. It's at the highest point of the Deadlands. Because when the skeletons exiled themselves there, they walked or took a boat, both are possible, through a lake of acid, through a sea of acid water, to an island in the middle of an uninhabited zone, and occupied the first Empire ruins of their old mining operation away from humans. They realized that we had toppled the first Empire. We had tried to wipe out humanity, not once, but twice, fought a civil war, started an empire to fix it, and fucked up again.
Mhm.
And Catlon, who was the best of us, also failed. We're removing ourselves
Oh,
from the
this makes so
situation.
much
There's
sense,
no
dude.
positive here.
This
We're
makes
not gonna we're
oh,
not gonna win.
stop, hero.
So they exile themselves to the Black Desert City, in a city that is it was an old mining operation, mining workshop operation during the First Empire, where they used to drill for oil and mine resources in the Deadlands, and now it is a island, a small settlement in the center of an acid lake that is uninhabitable by anyone other than them. It's not reachable by anyone other than them. It's the perfect place to exile yourself if you
Okay.
want to remove yourself from the annals of history. If you want no more interaction with humans because you loathe yourself so much, you loathe the things, the crimes that you've committed, that's the place to do it.
Okay, they've been there. That's why I think if you go to Black Desert City, especially with a shack, like if you, it's just I think it's just the only city where they're saying this. How humorous now the enforcers have spikes to match their attitude or something like that. That's because they haven't seen them forever. Because no one has visited the Black Desert
Because
City in
they
forever.
haven't seen it. They haven't seen them since they left. We know that they existed during the Second Empire. The skeletons there were in the Second Empire because they recognized Second Empire terminology like the enforcers and stuff like that. What they don't recognize is how things have changed since the fall of the Empire, and that's because when the Empire fell, they exiled themselves to the Black Desert, to the Deadlands.
This makes so much sense, dude.
And again, the Deadlands
Absolutely
was
bonkers.
likely almost completely submerged. The entire area was under a lake of acid. It's the perfect place for a skeleton to be like, no, I'm peacing out. Sorry, I'm done. I'm not. I can't do it anymore.
That's I was always wondering like why they behaved so weird when you as a
Yeah,
human came in there.
it's
But now that you
yeah,
mention it, absolutely bonkers. They've been there for probably like hundreds or even maybe even thousands of years without any contact to humans.
yeah. And, so I posted someone commented on one of my shorts a while ago, one of my videos a while ago, asking why the Holy Nation hasn't just gone to the Black Desert City and fought the skeletons and wiped them out there. And the truth is, excuse me, I ate chicken wings
Of
before this,
course.
so um,
Oh, the
so
proteins.
I know it's all the proteins, So the truth is that the reason that the Black Desert City is not like the Holy Nation hasn't gone to the Black Desert City to wipe them out is because they probably don't know it's there. In game, we travel back and forth to the Deadlands all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
But that's a gameplay perspective. In lore, nobody goes to the Black Desert. It's
Because it's a fucking hellhole.
It's
That's
raining
why.
perpetual acid. It's filled with robots that are going to try and kill you. It's perpetually covered in acid rain. It's got toxic like air. It's not a good time. There's no the benefit to going there is non-existent, and I'd be willing to bet that the vast majority of Kenshi, except for maybe a few select tech hunters, even know that the Black Desert City is there. Most of them probably think the Deadlands is just that. Deadlands. Nothing is there.
Deadlands, exactly. This
Nothing
makes
is
so much
there.
fucking sense. Yeah, it's true, but why would you like from a lore perspective, like you're saying, why would you fucking go there? Why would you go to this place that is fucking
Yeah.
hellhole?
Yeah.
It's like Vermitorgy.
And especially
Literally,
when
it's
you
like
think
if you
about
go there, it's
how it used to probably look. It was probably like now you can walk down there and like walk along the bottom, but like during the Second Empire and over, from the fall of the Second Empire till now, and it's for a certain period of time, it was a giant sea of acid. It was a sea of acid. Why would you sail a boat across that?
why would you go there? Why would you go there?
Yeah, it was a sea of acid. It makes no sense. The only reason that you'd go there is if you were a skeleton. So
True, true. That's
people
why
are
they
like,
exiled
why
themselves there.
why hasn't the Holy Nation attacked the Black Desert City? Because they don't know it's there.
They don't know it's there.
It's an exile. It's a place where the skeletons have been in hiding. They exiled themselves from society, from the rest of humanity, because they think, rightfully so, that they are a plague on humanity and they have exiled themselves. Right? So,
This makes so much sense, dude.
Black Desert City is an exile. The place that the skeletons went after the failings of Catlon. Now, here's where we start to get into the more controversial some of the more up for interpretation hero kind of theory crafting timeline. Go ahead, Pato, before I go on my tirade.
Just give me give me 15 seconds.
I'll give
I
you
forgot to
15
grab
seconds.
myself
Go
a
ahead.
drink.
Yes,
You
yes.
entertain people.
I'll
in the
go ahead and
meanwhile, okay?
entertain the people. You grab a beverage, my friend.
The bomb is
Yeah, so like the Second Empire though, I mean the skeletons of the Second Empire, like the Black Desert City and all that stuff, it's the perfect place to exile yourself. It's the perfect place to exile yourself. Yes, in the comments it says people don't go to the burning forest and it only
Sorry,
rains
folks.
acid
I know,
sometimes.
very unprofessional.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
Let me list the grievances of this podcast, okay? So far we've had Discord noises, both his and mine. I've had to fix this. I've had to fix the Discord call so Pato can see my glorious mug in real time. I have horrible acid reflux, and now he's getting a drink.
Cheers.
And then he pops it back. It's funny. It's funny.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. So yeah, people don't someone in the chat said people don't even go to the burning forest and it only rains acid sometimes in there. Literally. I mean it's also filled with blood spiders, but but no, like literally acid rain.
Behave.
Acid rain is not like to us it's a minor inconvenience as players, but like to people living there, if you got rain that can melt your fucking skin, why would you go there?
Yeah, lore-wise, it just doesn't make sense. Because
Why would you
people
go
don't
there?
know that like the best items and gear is there. They don't know that. Like,
Yeah.
why would they know it?
And there's dialogue to defend this. Aside from the fact that the skeletons are like, they haven't seen a human in centuries. When you talk to Dak and Quinn, even Dak is like, granted, he's starting to become paranoid and stuff, but he's like, I haven't seen a human in a very long time. Like I'm untrustworthy of them. He doesn't. It's been so long since they've seen a human that he's uncomfortable with your presence because you're not a skeleton. Like he's uncomfortable with organics. Yeah. Because it's been so many centuries since they've seen them, because this was where they exiled themselves after they perceived that the skeletons had failed not once, but twice. The best of them being Catlon had fallen into madness and become the enemy. Like it was, they fought a civil war, and for what? For what? For what? So
it's so funny, man. This podcast, wherever it might go, for me, it's just been learning more about the lore, like things I didn't even realize. But here is just like, listen here, little shit. This.
Oh man,
absolutely love it, man. Because it makes sense. Like lots of the theories you're putting out there just absolutely make sense.
So now we're gonna get into the even more speculative territory.
Yeah, hit me, brother.
After we get into that, then we can get into the Kenshi 2 side of things in regards, because that's when we get into the time period of when Kenshi 2 is going to happen. We can start to talk about what the setting of that's going to look like. So, yeah, at the end of the Empire, let's recap everything that Catlon is dealing with. He's dealing with insurrection, mass exodus, a population he can no longer control, a population that is decreasing, famine, environmental issues, and how does he deal with all of that? Well, he had problems once before when he was dealing with the cult. And how did he deal with that? He made humans, he altered humans. Yeah. Granted, he did so very minorly, right? It was done in a very minor way. Small sequence adjustments, make them more aggressive. Now I can crack down on the cult. We talked about that last episode. Make them more aggressive, make them more violent, so I can justify cracking down on them. But he's tampered with people's genes before. He's made them different before. Well, it fixed his problem last time, or it helped his problem last time. Let's do it again. He's also, mind you, he's in full paranoia mode. He's in full paranoia mode. He's in full like batshit crazy mode. So he goes to his geneticist. He goes to his lead geneticist, who I believe is the Bugmaster. And I've had people ask me why I think it's the Bugmaster. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But I do want to say this. On stream the other day, I don't know if I told you this. On stream the other day, I was working on my follower mod. and I happened to see a line of dialogue in the Bugmaster's tree that says, from a skeleton player, not from a shack or a human or a hybrid, can only be said by a skeleton, right? So it's not a mythological version of the telling. It's a literal version from somebody who has been around the entire time. The line of dialogue says, when you walk into a rack, there is a chance that a skeleton character can say, and I quote, "This is the realm of the Bugmaster, where he has resided for hundreds, plural, of years. Hundreds of years, albeit confirming that the Bugmaster is multiple hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
He is ageless.
Yeah. Yeah.
He may be a Greenlander, but
Is it-
he does not age. He is, in
Does not
fact,
age.
ageless. It confirms it all to me. There is a line of dialogue from a skeleton character, not a Shek, who would have been telling this mythologized version of it, not a human or a Hiver who might have a poor understanding of it or a mythologized version of it, a skeleton who has been around for hundreds of years, outwardly and openly says that the Bugmaster has resided in Iraq for hundreds, plural, of years. So, I think he went to the Bugmaster. The man who maybe assisted in the alterations of the shack, or maybe was just ahead of the department at the time, because we don't know what the time difference between those two is. We don't know when these alterations could have happened, but I think the one he went to for this was the Bugmaster. And he told the Bugmaster that he needs a fix for the problems. And the Bugmaster, whoever he may have been, pushed back and said, "We can't do this. We can't do these kinds of experiments. We can't do this level of tampering on living beings. It's going to have fallout. It's unethical. It's not okay. There's no trial phases. Like, we're not doing trial phases. We're just jumping straight into rapid, aggressive gene alteration. This is dangerous. I can't do it. It's immoral." And he was forced to. So, at the behest of Catlon, the Bugmaster takes humans, and he starts to experiment on them. He wants to make them easily reproducible, easily controllable, able to survive in the tepid, dangerous conditions of Kenshi and acid and radiation, able to eat food that is both good and spoiled, as well as requiring less food, able to survive a famine, able to work in harsh conditions, is, all of these things. And also, Catlon at this time has become disillusioned with humanity. And he starts to think in his head, humans are monsters. They destroy everything they touch. Skeletons don't. Me, a skeleton, I fought for hundreds of years, thousands of years to protect them. Humans would be better off like skeletons. Let's make them like skeletons. Let's give them the quality and the traits of skeletons. Let's give them the things that make us superior, so that way we can make humans better. So, look at a skeleton character. Look at the way their body is shaped. Look at their literal design. And then look at a Hiver character. Look at the shape of their body. Look at their literal design. Something that I find really interesting is when you look at a Hiver character, they have different types of Hivers for different types of jobs. The Hiver work drones, like the worker drones, have square, long heads. I mean, rectangular heads, like vertically rectangular heads. The worker drones, for like the worker skeletons, the basic type of skeleton, the most prominent type of skeleton, has a very long vertical head.
Stop!
The soldier drones have a horizontally rectangular wide head. The soldier bots have a horizontally rectangular wide head. It's just forward and backward instead of left to right. The managerial class of skeletons have a round head. The P4 units have a round head and a greater intelligence. They're managerial. The princes have a round head, higher intelligence, and they act as a managerial class for the Hivers. In the concept art, Catlon was originally
No
supposed to have
way.
a lion's mane type skeleton. You guys have seen it in the loading screens, right? The one that has the half cape with the lion's mane where it's little prongs poking out of his head. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
well, what does that look like to you? Because that was supposed to be Catlon, the king of the skeletons during the Second Empire, the emperor. Mad Emperor Catlon. He was the leader. Well, there's a type of Hiver that has the lion's mane, the little prongs,
No, you stop it, you little.
the queens. So the skeletons tried to engineer humans at the behest of Catlon, tried to engineer humans to look and act and function more like skeletons because Catlon had become disillusioned with humanity and thought they would be better off as being closer to skeletons because
Stop,
skeletons were superior.
dude.
And they are also perfectly designed to deal with every problem that was happening at the end of the Second Empire at the exact time they showed up because the Hivers did not show up in the lore until the tail end of the Second Empire when all of these things were happening. They are easily replaceable, which means that you don't have to deal with a declining population. They can deal with famine because they can eat anything. They can deal with environmental factors because they're immune to acid. They're immune to radiation. They're immune to a lot of the issues that would have been plaguing the area of agriculture that Catlon was dealing with. They are easily controllable, which is perfect for a area that for an empire that is facing insurrection and mass revolt and secessions. And like all of these things become like they line up perfectly. All of the problems that Catlon was facing are perfectly solved by the Hivers, and the Hivers happen to look exactly like organic skeletons. They look like they were modeled after skeletons.
Dude, you're becoming Kenshi. Literally, you are becoming the Lord. Jesus Christ! I never thought about this, dude.
Yeah. And we have much reason to believe that the Hivers were created. Firstly, look across their body. Look at the lines on their body. Those don't look like birth lines. They don't look like natural lines or like I'm talking about the red ones. They look like the lines that you would see on something that's being created, like a lab tested creation. This is a stupid example, so bear with me on this, but like the circles that are on the Hivers have always reminded me of. Do you guys remember the really shitty depiction of Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he had his mouth sewn shut? He had those like circles all over his body and the lines that like connected. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Please tell me you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm babbling up
Boy.
myself. Look up
You
Deadpool
mean
X-Men Origins Wolverine, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He's got those injection sites that are outlined, right, where they were pumping fluids throughout his body, and they did like tampering and alterations to him. The Hivers have those all over their bodies. It's super interesting. It's super interesting. Yeah. So that's always kind of what that reminded me of. But even more than that, the queens are half organic, half machine, but it's very basic machine. And we know that the technology during the Second Empire is slightly elevated compared to where it is now, but not by much, right? Not by much. And that comes from Chris himself. The technology during Kenshi 2 will be elevated slightly, but not by much. Well, it just so happens that the incubator unit that is present in the Queens is kind of shit. It's not that great. Look at it. It's a rusty shitbox. But it's elevated slightly, right? So they altered the genes of tons of humans trying to get this experimentation correct, trying to create what would ultimately become the queens, right? What would ultimately become the Hiver queens. But because there wasn't testing phases, because there wasn't trial phases, there was a lot of fallout. There was a lot of backlash. There was a lot of failures, a lot of failed experiments. The skin spiders. The skin spider.
Exactly. And I think big things too, honestly.
Maybe big things too, because they look like a human skin, like a human face stretched over a beak, like it's a whole. It's messed up.
Exactly.
But I think the skin spiders were the reason, and I'll get into why the skin spiders a bit more now and as we progress through the conversation. The skin spiders have the same chitinous, like hard outer shell. they have the same color and texture pattern that the Hivers do.
Yeah.
They have the same insectoid-like appearance, and if you look at their face, you look at their torso, their body, and their hands, they almost look like mutated humans, like half humanoid, half insect. They look messed up. They look. If you would zoom in on a skin spider sometime, pause the game, zoom in on a skin spider, and look at them. They look not. They look like they were created. They don't look natural. They look like human beings that have been mutated. It's all messed up.
I mean, I guess the same goes for the gurglers if you think about it. The
Yeah,
gurglers also look like someone tinkered with human and fish DNA or something like that.
attempts at creating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there's tons of failed experiments until finally they get it right with the queens, and I think they made three, at least that we know of for right now. Maybe Kenshi two, there'll be more, but I think they made three, and I think that
Hmm.
those three queens are the same queens that persisted, or at least two of them, because we don't really know exactly what happened to the dead hive, but I think
Hmm.
that those queens are the same queens that are present on Kenshi today. I think that they don't age either. And I think that making them ageless is the same is what how the Bugmaster um tested, I say tested in quotes, the same alteration that he would end up doing to himself to stop the aging process so he could get revenge on Catlon. Um the reason why I think that is that when you look at the hive queens, firstly, they're half machine,
Hmm.
half organic. Obviously, you can't be born with an incubator built into your body. So the incubator would have to be
No. No.
implanted. But
Hmm.
where do the hive queens come from? Well, in an old blog post, it said that the hivers used to lay eggs, but that was prior to the implementation of the hiver model. And I have to clarify this because people usually use this as a way to be like, well, the blog post says this. That blog post was prior to the implementation of the hiver model, where the hive queens have the incubators in their bodies.
Hmm.
And so that blog post has been retconned and is no longer accurate. They don't lay eggs anymore.
Okay, it's not. Yeah. Hmm.
They don't lay eggs anymore. Originally in the
It
lore, the
doesn't go.
decision,
Doesn't go with the current lore. Yeah.
yeah, the original
Doesn't.
decision was that hivers were going to lay eggs. That's no longer the case. Now they have the incubator, and we've pretty much worked out how hiver reproduction works with the all that stuff, and we'll dive more into that in the hiver episode when we get there. But I don't want to dive too much into that right now. But the main point being, though, the color of the hivers is distinctly different between the southern, the dead hive, and the western hive: purple, blue,
Hmm.
yellow. And I have determined, along with many others, that the thing that determines the color for a hiver when they are born is what material was used as the organic base to build them, the building blocks to build them, right? How they are built,
Hmm.
because the way that they're created is that they ingest organic material, they regurgitate it, feed it to the queen as some kind of slurry, and depending on what it is, she uses that as the organic matter to incubate and create a new hiver using her own
No,
body as the
never.
stable genetic template. She pumps out new hivers
Hmm.
depending on what they need: workers, queens, workers, soldiers, princes, but she needs organic material because you can't create something from nothing. It's again a violation of the laws of matter and the
Obviously.
laws of thermodynamics. Like you can't
Hmm.
create something from nothing. So she intakes organic matter that has been regurgitated by the hivers, uses that as the fuel source, the energy source to create new hivers. Whatever she ingests, whatever that slurry that she ingests is, determines the color and temperament of the hive. So the Western hive uses agriculture like wheat straw, and stuff
Hmm.
like that. That's why her hivers are more docile, and that's why they are yellow, because they use wheat straw. The southern hive uses dude smoothie that's ground up and grinded to bits like by King, and so that's why they're purple, because she's basically eating ground up people.
I call it human slushy. It sounds
Yeah,
better.
I like dude smoothie.
I like the dude
I
smoothie.
like the dude smoothie. So, the reason why I think that the queens are the same queens that have been around since the beginning, though, is because the Southern Hive Queen in Vanilla Kenshi is not purple, she's yellow. She was created
So
through the same
he's the
process
same.
that the Western
Hmm.
Hive Queen was. And then she just found a different type of material that was used to create new hivers. That's why her offspring are purple, but she is yellow. Because she was created with the intent of being able to use agriculture as a way to reproduce by Catlon, And then she ended up finding a new way to reproduce using Dude Smoothie, and that's how she does it now with that. But she wasn't created with that intent, and I think she's the same Hive Queen that was created originally. Now, go ahead. You look like you had something to say.
I just wanted to say now comes the third hive.
No, so I'm not going to dive too much into the Fogman. I'm not going to. That's we're going to save. We're going to save the Fog. I'm going to save the Fogman for another episode.
Okay.
So now we talked about before how they did testing with the enforcers. The testing was done on bone dogs and pack bulls, and that's where they isolated the gene for aggression. That's why bone dogs, pack bulls, and Shek, or the enforcers, all went down the same evolutionary tree where they started growing bone armor. They became aggressive, more durable, all that stuff, because they had the same genetic alterations done to them. And so I started thinking to myself, where would the alterations be that would, why do the Koreans freak out when you visit them? Hold on, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So where would the alterations be? Where would they have come from? Where would they have originated to create a being that is ageless? Well, I think that the Hivers are an amalgamation of tons of different DNA put onto human beings to give them the traits that were required to make them more like skeletons, all that stuff. But I think that the one that makes the Hiver Queens specifically ageless, because I don't think it's all Hivers, I think it's just the Hiver Queens. The thing that makes the Hiver Queens ageless in particular lines up very nicely with an animal that is present on Kenshi right now that is also ageless, and in real life is also ageless. Crabs. So in real life,
Wait.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You think crab was the base for that?
I think that the template to remove the aging process from the Hiver Queens, and by extension, the template that the Bugmaster used to halt his own aging process, was crabs. I think he isolated the gene from crabs.
Okay.
So in real life, crabs. Well, actually, let me back up a little bit more. In real life, the aging process is caused by a myriad of things, but one of the big ones is the shortening of your telomeres. So on your DNA, okay, a double helix DNA strand, at the ends of your DNA, there are these caps that keep your DNA together. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're called telomeres. And every time your DNA reproduces, those telomeres get weaker and they get shorter and shorter and shorter. As they get shorter, your DNA becomes less efficient. It becomes less good at reproduction. Your cells start to reproduce at a lower quality than the last one. There's a finite number of reproduction that your cells can handle. And because your cells get weaker, you experience things like aging. You experience a decrease in reaction time, a decrease in cognitive ability. You experience your skin starts to sag because it's regenerating weaker and weaker every time. Aging is the byproduct of weakening DNA as a weakening reproduction of DNA due to the shortening of your telomeres. Okay. There's a couple other things at play there, but telomeres are a big one. The shortening of your telomeres are a big one. It's a weakening of your DNA from the shortening of your telomeres that lead to the aging process. And this isn't just me talking out my ass. Not only have I actually gone to college for this, have I taken several courses on this. I worked on my pre-med, but I've also spoken to biochemists as a result of this theory. I've spoken to actual biochemists to reconfirm and recontextualize to make sure I'm correct. And this has been a very confirmed thing. So, this isn't just me pulling this out my ass. I promise. I've done the research and I've talked to very, very educated people in addition to my own education to confirm this. So crabs have an enzyme that prevents the shortening of their telomeres. So crabs can effectively, crabs and lobsters, both of them, can effectively regenerate on a cellular level infinitely. Their cells will regenerate identically and perfectly every time. There's no weakening. There's no decrease in efficiency. There's none of that stuff. They regenerate perfectly every time, with the exclusion of things. There's other things that could cause issues, but like health conditions. But with the exception of disease, they regenerate perfectly every time. So what this means is that crabs don't age. Lobsters don't age. So why don't we have... 10,000-year-old crabs and lobsters running around? Well, it's because as crabs and lobsters continue to like live, they also get bigger and bigger and bigger. They also are incredibly dominating and they fight a lot. So there's only two ways that a crab or a lobster can die. Well, three if you include disease, but we're slipping disease out of this right now. They can either die in battle, or as they get bigger and bigger and bigger because they continue to regenerate and they continue to grow, it requires more and more energy for them to break out of their own shell, to molt. And that more energy means they have to intake more food. And eventually they reach a point where they can't intake enough food to support the breaking down, support the breaking of their own shell, their molting of their own shell. And they either asphyxiate in their own shell or they die of exhaustion trying to break out. So they can only die one of two realistic ways: in battle or exhaustion. They don't age. Well, what does Kenshi have? Giant fucking crabs.
That's so fucking interesting.
Now, if you were to apply that same thing to humans, if you were to apply that gene that produces the enzyme that prevents the shortening of the telomeres, that allows you to regenerate on a cellular level for an extended period of time, you would effectively halt the aging process. You'd never age. You wouldn't age, or you'd experience slower aging, and you wouldn't have the byproduct of the exhaustion issue, because human beings from a physiological perspective don't grow like that. They don't grow endlessly, and we don't have a shell that we have to break out of. So we have none of the pitfalls. Now, here's the problem, and again, this is also very well documented and researched. You can look up the Institute of Age, the Aging Institute. You can look up, I think it's Cambridge did a study on it, Oxford did a study on it, and there's another one in the States that did the Aging Institute of something. I don't remember what it is, but they did a study on it where if human beings were to live hypothetically without aging, even if they were to halt the aging process entirely after about 400 or 500 years, well, they would experience a cognitive increase in terms of their ability to perceive and understand information, a vocabulary increase, and everything else. They would experience a decrease in things like their ability to communicate. They'd experience a decrease in their reaction time. They would experience several severe mental decline in many ways as a result of extended living, because the human brain is not meant to hold and package that much information for 400 or 500 years. It's not built for it. Every estimate that has been run, granted these are estimates, but Kenshi is a game that's built on information that we have currently, and it's also art, so it takes liberties. So every estimate that we have run in mainstream science currently says that after 400 or 500 years, human beings would experience severe mental decline and effectively become animalistic. They would become simple. They would become degenerated, because the human brain cannot hold that much much information, and they would experience
the capacity of the brain is done at some point. At some point, it's fucking done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, someone says the Bugmaster does not have a weakness in reaction time, not physical reaction time, but mentally. I mean, he's checked out. You can walk up to the Bugmaster's throne and he stands there. He doesn't attack you until you get real close to him. His perception is fucked. I mean, you can walk up to the Bugmaster's throne, stand there right in front of him, and he just stands there. And even though he's hostile, I would say that he does have an issue with reaction. He is not very reactive. You have to openly attack him, and then he's like an animal operating on instinct. That's not reaction time. That's animalistic instinct. He's operating on instinct.
And he does. Like, he doesn't speak. He's like very...
Yeah. His ability to communicate has gone downhill, which lines up perfectly with a human being that has been around for 1,000 years. Now, he also is very focused because he was forced to commit these horrible experimentations against people, against human beings. And the byproduct of those experimentations was the skin spiders, these horribly degenerated, messed up creatures that were just, they were experimented on humans. It's not their fault. And they deserve justice for what for what Catlon did to them. for what the Bugmaster did to them. So to atone, the Bugmaster, after he creates the Hiver Queens, implements the same alteration to himself, not knowing, by the way, that it was going to drive him nuts. But also, I think the same reason the Hiver Queens are unintelligible and that they freak out and that they are like, you can't talk to them, that they and that they're not like discernible, is for the exact same reason the Bugmaster is. They've been around for 1,000 years. They're not built to hold that much time. They're not built to hold that much information. They've been around for too long. They've degenerated. Now they're operating on instinct. The Hiver Queens operate on instinct for the same reason the Bugmaster does. They've been alive too long. Too long.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bugmaster wants to get justice for these people that were experimented on. And the Bugmaster also wants to atone for the sins that he has committed at the behest of Catlon. So what does he do? He makes himself ageless, so he has plenty of time. He takes the rejected byproducts of his own experiments, and whether these experiments happened in Iraq or he moved to Iraq and started building his army there, unknown. I'm liable to think the experiments happened in Iraq.
Okay. Oh, never mind. I just thought I had a good idea, but never mind. The time. No, the timeline is fucked up. That's why it doesn't make sense. Time-wise, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Well, spit it out. Content. It's content, Pato. It's content. Spit it out.
Okay. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. Don't scream at me. I can't work under pressure. Jesus Christ, man. No. I was thinking maybe the Bugmaster had something to do with the explosion in the grid because he's very close to it. But then I was like, the timelines would be very fucked up. It wouldn't make sense
because the Hivers were made after the explosion and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's like the timelines are too far apart for that.
Yeah. So anyway, he goes to Iraq, or he was already in Iraq, and he starts building an army of the very creatures that were created wrongfully, the people that were subdued and experimented on by Catlon. And he starts building an army of them that he wants to lead against Catlon so that he can both get justice for those that he victimized, being that of the skin spiders, and also atone for the crimes that he committed. That is why the Bugmaster is the only person on Kenshi that knows where Catlon is. There are maps of the Ashlands that you can find in other places, but none of them point to Catlon's exile. Only the Bugmaster's map does. Because he's the only one that's been around this whole time. He's the only one that knows about him, that knows where he is, because even the skeletons admit they don't know where he is. They know he's alive, but they don't know where he is. He's the only one. And he knows because he was there.
Can I say something?
Shoot.
Do you think the Shek's obsession with the Bugmaster stems from them being an experiment from the Bugmaster?
I partially thought for a while that, and I still might. I think one of two solutions are there. Catlon was originally, before I thought that the enforcers were the enforcers for the cult, not enforcers for Catlon. Originally, I thought maybe that the enforcers were used to clean up the experiments when they failed, like the skin spiders. When the rejects happened originally, they weren't like releasing skin spiders out into the world. The enforcers would kill them. They were the ones that would clean up the mess. And so when the Empire fell apart, there was already a natural rift between the two. Like the enforcers were used to hunting skin spiders because that was their job. And then it turned into a cultural thing. Now I think what happened is that it's a proximity thing. I think that the enforcers, the enforcers and the Shack, because of their proximity to each other, naturally have like engaged in combat because of their close proximity to one another. And during the time of the Shek being roaming tribes and stuff, they engaged in combat. And I don't think the Bugmaster has been in Iraq hiding in his tower the entire time. He's been there for hundreds of years, not a millennia. I think there was a period of time where the Bugmaster was not just culling, trying to build an army to fight Catlon. I think he was also like training his army on the Shek, and he was out there fighting them as well. Like, I don't think he's always been like a hermit in Iraq. I think for a while, the Bugmaster was training not just himself was not just building an army. He was training himself, and I think he was training himself on the Shek, on the enforcers when they were tribals. And so he became a myth to the Shek, a legend to the Shek, like the roaming Bugmaster that will wipe out entire tribes of Shek overnight. And then over time, he retreats to Iraq, and it becomes a cultural thing. I think that before he was in Iraq building his army, I think he was training himself on Shek. I think that he was fighting enforcers on like himself as a way to ready his own body to fight Catlon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think that came from. Now, some people have asked why he has a chest full of teeth. And this is a fun one. I love this one. Muffin got a good kick out of this one. I think you're either going to take this as really funny, or you're going to take this as like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those two things. And I think it can be both. It's a theory.
Hit me with it.
I counted the number of teeth at one point inside, like how many sets of human teeth there are inside the chest. And it comes out to roughly, if you establish that he is, if we take a baseline, there was like 20 or 30 something sets of human teeth in there. And when I don't remember what it is offhand, because I did this like 3 or 4 months ago. But when you do the math for the teeth, if we assume that the Bugmaster is not brushing, which we can assume he's not, but you also assume that he's not eating a lot of sugary shit, and that he's not eating things that will naturally degrade his teeth.
No.
Which we can assume he's not.
No.
We can say that he keeps his teeth for roughly 40-ish years. And then they fall out. And then as a byproduct of that crab DNA, of that ability to endlessly regenerate on a cellular level, he grows new teeth. Like a shark.
He's a shark.
Like a fucking shark. The number of teeth in that chest comes out to about 960 years worth of teeth.
You know what? I think it's funny, but at the same time, it makes sense.
When does Kenshi 2 take place, Peto?
Stop it.
1,000 years back?
Stop it.
When did the Hivers appear, Peto?
Yes,
about 960,000 years back. When would the Bugmaster have done the experiments to make himself ageless, Peto? About 1,000 years back, give or take.
But about 1,000 teeth back.
About 1,000 years back, about 960 years back, maybe.
Oh no, bro! What the fuck, dude? Dude. You're too far into this shit, man. I'm a call it quits here. No, stop it, brother. You're literally Kenshi at this point. You were for me. It's absolutely insane, dude. The theories you come up with, holy shit.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense because why else would he? Where does he get the teeth? Except for if it's his own teeth.
Someone said, "Why do you think? Do you have a reason that you think the teeth are his? Couldn't they be teeth of the Shek that he's killed?" Also, from what I know, the number of teeth changes in each run. The number of teeth can change slightly, but it's pretty consistent by and large. The number of teeth that are in there. With that being said, I think that the teeth. I think the reason that he keeps the teeth, and the reason why I think they're his, I think that they are his animalistic way of keeping track of the passage of time.
Bro.
I think that he is using that, because the chest is supposed to be his treasures. He's using them as a way to keep track of the passage of time. He keeps them in a chest right next to a map that he uses to hunt Catlon. I think that the teeth are his way of keeping track of the passage of time. Let me verify the teeth thing. Let me verify the number of teeth thing too, because I want to know exactly how much the variation is, because it is an interesting one. But when I added it out recently, like I said, it came out to about 960 years worth of teeth if we assume that they last for about 40 years.
The items
There.
count. The items count in the FCS is 40.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a plus or minus variation on that? Because I don't.
No, it's just 40.
Just
Says
flat
40.
40. Yeah.
It's flat
Yeah.
40.
So.
And it's 40 sets of teeth, right?
Yeah. 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 So let's do. Hold on. I wish I could find. I wish I could find that comment that originally prompted me to read it. It's on such an old video.
Kenshi 2 isn't even worth playing when we already know the entire hidden plot of it. Yeah, stop it, hero.
Is it worth
Stop
it?
it.
Is it worth it? Yeah. I have to look. There was a comment in one of my old videos that would bring it up, and I'm gonna try and find it. Pato, entertain the people for a minute while I find the video.
Okay, I have no hair. I am clinically insane, and I own a set of teeth in my drawer. 2 are true, 1 is a lie. Guys, I want some guesses in the in the chat. It's not the comments, it's the chat. I'm sorry, we're live.
We are live. We are in fact. I say chat comments all the time, and it's really funny because like I'll say it on a live stream, and people are like, "We're live." You know, you're.
I suppose it's the YouTuber syndrome. I guess.
True.
That's
true.
That's what makes it.
That's.
So yeah, but I mean that makes sense. It's weird. I mean, of course, I just want to say it here, guys, because some people might think this is all cat canon and this is true. We are theorizing. We don't know anything. We're just theorizing here.
Yeah, these are all just theories. They're all just theories.
Yeah. I mean, literally 95% of everything we talk about in Kenshi is theorizing. So yeah, don't hold us accountable for it. But I think so far we have established a few funny theories. Some might hold a lot of value, some might hold a little bit of less value, but that's what this podcast is about.
What we do.
Theorizing.
It's what we do.
Theorize until Kenshi 2 drops, and then when Kenshi 2 drops, we have more questions and we have answers, and then we can theorize even more. That's how we're doing it. And then after like 5 or 6 years, we make our own Kenshi game, which is called The Truth of Kenshi, in which we're going to present all the theories established over the years.
One more short that I've looked through.
For sure, the bold is a lie. Yeah, the bold is a lie, guys. I actually, okay, you guys, wait, you guys caught me. Sorry, where is it? Where is it? I swear I have it. I think I've done the script before, but I swear I can't find it. So didn't I?
Where is he gone? What just happened? I missed out on something. Peto's gone. What is he doing? Something about him being bald. These last 5 minutes of the podcast have been wild. Oh my god, you guys are just sitting here watching me scroll through my shorts. I'm trying to find this math that I did in a comment section with another viewer. I'm so sorry, guys. Oh man. A Kenshi visual novel about insane theories. Oh my god, that'd be really cool. That would be really cool. A nice visual, like graphic novel talking about some of the theories. Absolutely fire. Absolutely fire. This one. Oh, I think this might be the right comment. Hold on. I may have found it. I may have the numbers. Where are you, you bastard?
It's too much work for the choke.
Here it is. Here it is. Are you ready? He has 25 sets. He has 25 sets of human teeth. Okay? 25 sets of human teeth. When you do the numbers, if he grows a new set of teeth every 40 years, which again, if he's not brushing, he's not flossing, but he's not eating sugary shit to destroy his teeth, 40 years is about a good number, and he loses them and grows new ones every 40 years with 25 sets of teeth, 32 human teeth, assuming that he keeps his wisdom teeth. 25 sets of teeth averages out to roughly 1,000 years of life if you break it down into a 40-year increment. Roughly 40-year increment comes out to about 1,000 years, which is the exact amount of time he'd be around. 25 sets of human teeth. Because the way that the teeth stack, there's 40 there's 40 stacks or 40 in there. It comes out to 25 sets. 25 sets of teeth at 32 per teeth.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. I found it. Yes. 25 sets of human teeth when you break it down by the number of teeth that are inside the Bugmaster's chest. It comes out to a new set of teeth every 40 years would be about 1,000 years of life.
Well, it does say that the pure hygiene teeth last between 50 to 60 years. Which
so
roughly comes to the where we were talking about.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Even if you were to add, say, 50 years on that, it's an extra 10 years here and there. It still comes out to roughly around the same time all this would have happened, because the Empire
it does make sense.
Slowly fell apart over a long period of time. These events could have happened 1,200 years ago, and then over the course of 300 years, the Empire fell apart, which is the last thing I want to talk about in the pod. We're getting towards the end. The setting of Kenshi 2. And where things are going to be during the setting of Kenshi 2. So, Kenshi 2 takes place about 1,000 years back. One of the things that people have misunderstood about the setting of Kenshi 2 is that it is going to take place during they think it's a lot of people have said that it's going to take place during during the Second Empire, during like the peak or during like a height when the Empire's still around. And the proof they use of that is that the Armor King says that he founded his shop in the booming Second Empire town of Ketch 937 years ago. But the reason why I don't think that is the case is that, as I said at the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the pod, the Empire's collapse was slow. It was a gradual secession, a retreat, cities declaring independence. Didn't destroy itself. It wasn't a fall. It was a rotting away, a decline, a decay. The Empire during Kenshi 2, as far as we know, is going to be in a position where some cities, like Ketch perhaps, are still around and booming economically and are still considered part of the Second Empire. But just because one town is booming doesn't mean the Empire was doing good. It means that town was booming, because towns declared independence. They were still functioning and operating even outside of the Second Empire. So at the time of Kenshi 2, as far as we know, 1,000 years back, several cities are still part of the Second Empire. But many cities have seceded. Many cities are operating independently. Much of Kenshi is operating independently. The Second Empire is at its tail end, where it is still trying to desperately hang on to territories and cities and land that are gradually not listening to Catlon anymore, and they're seceding from the Empire. Kenshi 2 is going to take place at a time where the Empire is trying to hold on to the Second Empire and failing. Cities have seceded. Independent city-states are forming. Smaller, minor factions are cropping up all over the place, and the Empire is desperately trying to hang on to its land, and it's failing. We're not going to see an empire at its peak. We're going to see an empire in its dying gasps, trying desperately to hang on to its territory and failing repeatedly, with a handful of cities here and there, but most cities are independent, which I'm excited about, because that also means that during the time of Kenshi 2, we're not going to have many major factions, I don't think, in the way that control the vast majority of the map in the same way that we do right now, where it's the Shet Kingdom, the United Cities, the Holy Nation, the Western Hive, and the Tech Enders that have monopolized a lot of the map. And then we have some minor factions in between. Instead, we're going to have a ton of independent city-states. It's not going to be nation on nation. It's going to be city on city. It's going to be tons of minor factions and tons of smaller independent factions controlling smaller portions of the map, having smaller scale conflicts, but more like all over the place. And then you're going to have the Second Empire that is trying aggressively, the big one that's trying to hang on, and it's just not working as cities declare independence and secede, right at the tail end, as Catlon has just enthralled the skeletons. A lot of the skeletons went into exile. Cities are seceded. The Hivers are freshly created as a last-ditch attempt to hang on to his empire. And at the end of everything, at the end of the Second Empire, Catlon seals himself in his capital as the Mad Emperor, the failed king, the failed emperor. And to kind of wrap up the episode in totality, I think, for the Second Empire, wrap up the Second Empire, a lot of people have speculated that maybe the Ashlands were not the capital and that somewhere else was the capital, like Catlon or something like that. I don't believe that's the case. I think that the Ashlands were the capital of the Second Empire. They built the capital of the Second Empire on the ruins of a major settlement or major outpost, or potentially even the capital of the first. And we know that because it's the only place with those kinds of megalithic structures. And I think that the reason that Catlon's Exile is called Catlon's Exile lines up perfectly with how the Empire fell apart. It decayed. People stopped listening. He wasn't exiled in the sense that he left his capital and went to the Ashlands in exile. He was exiled in the sense that everyone stopped listening. He was a king on a throne of a decayed, ruined empire with no subjects, no servants. He was a king of ruin on a throne surrounded in an empty capital with people who no longer listened to him. He exiled and sealed himself inside of his own capital. His own king, his own kingdom, his own capital became his exile as everyone just stopped listening. Everyone said, we're done. They left, they seceded, and Catlon retreated into his own capital, sitting on a throne of nothing, a king and emperor of nothing. He exiled himself inside of the ruins of his kingdom.
I think this is like the perfect ending for this podcast.
I agree.
This is like delivery wise, I have to say, it's like you planned this. I'm not sure if you planned this, but it's time wise, delivery wise, we just hit the perfect spot here.
It was good.
And yeah, this means for us, just a few more words. This means for us that we're going to have a lot of fun in Kenshi 2 because there's a lot of stuff happening, and I am very excited to see what's going to happen. Very excited.
I am very excited. So someone said the definition of exile is to be away from your country or home, though. So it's typically defined as being away from your country for punitive or what is it? It's defined as being away from one's native country, typically for political or punitive reasons. But if your country has fallen apart and you lock yourself in exile to inside your own capital, of the ruins of your own capital that no longer exists anymore, you're not really in your country anymore. You're in the ruins of what used to be your country. You're in exile. I would still consider it to be exile. It's seclusion. Locked himself in seclusion or in exile in his own capital. I'd buy that. But anyway,
I would say so too.
Yeah, I think that's a good wrap up. I think that's a good end point for today's episode. And next we get to talk about we're going to move on to the 1,000 years since the fall of the Second Empire, the in between, what happened in between the Second Empire and now. And that's going to be a fun couple of episodes. So, because I think it's going to take a couple episodes. We're probably going to have to break it down into sections.
True. Yeah, true. I think so too.
So, but any closing statements, Pedro? Any closing statements where you want to end this off?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up pretty good. I think everything that I would say wouldn't come close to what you just did, but I'm excited for the next episode of the podcast, and I'm excited for Kenshi 2. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening here on Spotify. We're obviously on Spotify too.
That's true.
Check us out on Spotify.
Check us out on the Spotifys. We are on the Spotifys.
Yeah, you can listen to us when you're at work. You can listen to us when you drive your car. You can listen to us when you're actually going to bed, when you're just sleeping tightly inside of your very comfy bed.
That sweet, succulent Kenshi ASMR. Or you can listen to us while you're getting absolutely swole at the gym.
Yeah, swole at the gym. Get those muscles pumped. Get
listen
those proteins.
To those dulcet tones while we're at the gym. Good time.
And now hit the fucking gym.
Get the
pump. Do
pump.
it now. Get to the
Ah.
pump. Pump those muscles.
Thank you guys for popping in, as always. Much appreciated. And we will see you guys next time on the next episode of the Tengus Vault podcast. I've been here in his head. This is pt.2. And we will see you guys next time.